Hi and good morning. It's Monday, 13th of April 2018. Welcome like every business day to real-time daily trading ideas. We have 5 days a week, 5 different traders. We will speak about trading ideas, strategies, market screening, and maybe 1 or 2 questions from your side directly answer in our webinar. Our goal is quick and smart, but for that daily. So let's have a nice start. Like every day, good morning to all. And we will start like every day with our risk disclaimer. Forex and CFDs are leveraged products and can result in losses that exceed your deposits. If you are a starter, please start with a demo account and make yourself familiar with long trading, short trading, leverage trading, and your personal risk management. If you'd like to read the full risk disclaimer, just visit one of our web pages, for example, admiralmarkets.com, and you will see everything written down there. This is me. My name is Jens. I'm the German guy. I'm talking from the Berlin office. We are a big international broker with over 18 country offices. So I'm the German guy. My English is made in Germany, but hopefully some of my quality too. But I'm not the main guy. The main speaker is the day trader of today. Usually on Monday it's Jay's day, but Jay is unavailable today. So today is also Paul's day. Hi, good morning, Paul. In a couple of seconds, it will be your webinar. Usually on Tuesday it's Paul's day, on Wednesday it's Giancarlo's day, on Thursday it's Zeynep's day, and on Friday it's Dirk's day, our leading day traders live. And of course, if you like to trade Forex and CFDs, we will be really happy if you do it with us. Many benefits only available on Admiral Markets. For example, DAX 30, one of our bestseller T-bill spread of just 0.8 points to the main trading hours, many lot trading, MT4, MT5, and great safeguards like our negative balance protection policy. Check all them out on admiralmarkets.com. There you'll find also something about our regulatory background and how to contact us. You can call us, you can send us email, or visit the other channels like YouTube or Facebook. Everything is linked from admiralmarkets.com. So, and today, not Jay, because Jay is unavailable, but it's Paul's day today. Good morning. Thanks for jumping in. Now it's your time, your view to the markets. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Jens. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me all loud and clear, and I hope you can now see my screens as well. So yeah, good morning to you. Thank you for that introduction, Jens. It's Monday. I'm stepping in for Jay. It's the last day of April already. That it's been a rather eventful April, as it has been a rather eventful year, ladies and gentlemen. So as always, you know, on a kind of last day of the month, I always sort of just caveat to people just to be careful, because we get sort of end of month flows happening. So sometimes we can get a little bit of interesting price action that may not make sense. But as always, there are always opportunities for us. Okay, there's always an opportunity. So why don't we have a little look and we start? And what I will normally start with is taking a little bit of a look at our dollar index. Here we are on the MT4 Supreme edition. Okay, so I appreciate most people will be here for Jay, so they may not know how I look and view at the market. So I take a very simple look, very simple view of the markets. Okay, so here are how my charts are set up. So I have green bullish candles, red bearish candles. I have a blue 20 simple moving average, a red 50 simple moving average, and a green 200 simple moving average. And then I will also draw in horizontal levels of support and resistance, and any particular patterns that I may see. So those of you who've watched me on my sort of Tuesday morning slot, I talk about the dollar index in sense of if you're going to be an FX trader, well, you really need to know what the dollar is doing. The dollar's the main player, and we need to know is the dollar bullish, is it bearish, is it asleep, is it awake, is it angry, etc. So that gives us a little bit of an idea of the major themes within the FX markets. So I've spoken for a while about dollar index here. Okay, this is the weekly chart, and how we were sort of reaching a little bit of a base, and then at the start of last week we had just broken out, and then what actually happened is we saw that there was basically a breakout which held here on the weekly chart. And if I go down to the daily chart, ladies and gentlemen, what I can see is that we had a nice breakout and a move up. And we know on Friday we put in a little bit of a bearish pin bar up there at the daily 200 period moving average. So I start to think, well, maybe we'll just see a little bit of a reaction down before perhaps we get a next move up. So I just want you to take that into your mind, take that into consideration, because when we now move on to look at euro dollar, pound against dollar, that can sort of help us with our picture building of for the entire session. So that's the dollar index. So let's see how we can use that. Okay, how we can use that into our own trade ideas. So let's start with euro dollar. All right, let's go up there. Okay, so if we go up to the weekly chart, we go zoom in a little bit here. So we've just looked at the dollar index weekly chart, okay, which had a little bit of a base before it's rallied, whereas the euro dollar, not surprisingly, is a little bit of a an inverse correlation there, namely that we hit the 125 level, sort of bounced about a bit, we sort of coiled up into this wedge, this pennant, and then we broke south. Okay, and we moved down quite nicely. We had a couple of good trades here that we'd set up that were running south, and not surprisingly, now you're sort of moving in back towards these kind of this area of what was a previous resistance, looking at that as now as a possible area of support. So let's have a little look at that and see how could we start to sort of take a trade of the day. Well, if I look at the daily chart, okay, if I look at the daily chart, we've come down here. We've now put in a sort of a nice bullish pin bar there, okay. So if you remember what I just said, on the dollar index, it's not unsurprising that we might get a little bit of a reaction. So it shouldn't be a shock if we get a reaction off the euro dollar itself, maybe a little bit of just a sort of a little dead cat bounce. And that, on a sort of a shorter term frame, well, that might provide us with a little bit of a trade opportunity. So, what I actually see is here, if I go down to the 4-hourly chart there, well, I see that there is an opportunity for me to test the market. That's what I'm looking for. Is there an opportunity for me to test the market to see, are we going to get a little bit of a reaction here? I see that as perhaps there's a bit of a sort of an inverse head and shoulders perhaps building there, sort of an aggressive inverse head and shoulders. So, I'd be looking to maybe have a trade here, okay? So, using the mini terminal on the Supreme edition, which is, I can't sort of back it enough. I think it's a great piece of kit for traders to be able to use. I can start to put in a very simple sort of trade idea to actually be a buyer of euro dollar around about that sort of 121 level. Have my stop beneath the lows at around about sort of 20.50. And then have a target heading up there towards around about 122. Okay, about 122, sort of with my with the targets there. So that's what I do. And I think my charts were maybe a little bit slow this morning. Maybe the internet connection is not fantastic, but that's what I'm looking to do. Okay, have go long at around about 121. Have a stop loss at 120.50. So I have about 50 ticks of trade risk. And then I'm looking to have a target around about 122. So I'm risking 50 ticks for 100 ticks of profit, and that's a nice 2-to-1 reward to risk trading. I'm not expecting this to be the bottom. I think that we will get a move down, but you can see there for yourself that we've had a strong move down, and whenever we have a strong move down, there's always somebody wanting to take profits. We're at a level of previous resistance which becomes support, and so I'll be interested, as I say, to test that market as a trade idea to see how that plays out. So there we go for the sort of euro dollar. Well, let's have a look at that. As we go on to, let's have a little look at pound against dollar. Right, pound against dollar has been very interesting. Okay, in the sense that sterling generally has been the sort of strong currency for last 6 to 9 months. But of course, as anything, when you're at the top of the tree, the only way is down. And what we saw over the last week or two was we had a few sort of undershoots on UK news, okay, UK fundamental news, and that gave us this sort of sell-off that we've seen over the last sort of 10 days to 2 weeks. We also had at the weekend, last night we had the resignation of the Home Secretary, Amber Rudd. So, all of these things feed into, a lack of confidence. That confidence that we've seen in sterling start to ebb away. Now, if I look at this weekly chart, I saw this, we talked about this, it's been in a lovely uptrend with this really fantastic supporting trend line where, we hit the sort of the weekly 200 and we put in a key reversal on the weekly chart, okay, which is doesn't happen very often, but whenever I see them, I always take note of them. Price pushed to these new highs and then fell away and closed beneath the sort of lows and the close of the previous week's candle, and that's quite a big signal, and we saw that follow through. Okay, we saw that follow through, and so what I'm looking at is, We remember we've had a bit of dollar strength coming back into the market, where we've also had sterling weakness creep in, and that is what we're looking at. So I don't have an exact trade on this right this moment, but what I'm looking at is, we're going to watch how this price moves towards this supporting trend line. Remember, we just looked on the weekly chart. That has been a supporting trend line for over a year now, and so I'm going to be interested to see how does price react there. Okay, how does price will it bounce like it has done over the last 12 months? Okay, in which case, well then, sterling strength will come back in. Or does it slice through it and slice through that 137, 136.50 zone? In which case, that's given me an indication that we're going to probably head down to around about 135.30 towards the daily 200. So I'm just going to be watching that. Just watch that for the moment. There will be an opportunity there. We're just watch and wait. Sometimes we just need a little bit of patience just to sort of see the setup coming towards us, and we just need to sort of have the patience to wait for it. If I follow that through, okay, then that follows me through into quick look at the euro sterling, one of my old favorites, what I trade a great deal of. Is that it gives us that bit more of that indication of we're getting a little bit of sterling weakness creep in. Let me just last week I talked about we had that big weekly key reversal candle again, and how we put our trade on there last week, sort of to buy around about the 87.05 level. All right, and that's what happened. We talked about it maybe forming an inverse head and shoulders, and that's what it looks to have done. We had a buy order about 87.50 with our stops beneath, and actually we can see that has actually moved quite nicely. And so that's just giving us further indication that maybe that sterling strength is now ebbing away. Nothing ever lasts forever. So we look at that, and what I'd be looking now is to see is euro sterling maybe come back down towards the trend line here. This idea of just having a little bit of a pullback to see would there now be another opportunity to join that sort of euro sterling trade further on. So keep an eye on that. So there we go. So a little bit quick flick through the dollars and the euro dollar and pound dollar. So let's have a little look at some indices. Those of you know, I try to cover a bit of a good breadth, so there's plenty for you to have a look at and to work on in your own trading. DAX is a very popular traded product, okay, on Admiral Markets. Here we have the weekly chart, okay. So I look, what was the weekly candle last week? Well, it was I look at that as a bit of a sort of dragonfly sort of doji there, right? Where price is up here, it's not to me it doesn't look as if it really knows what it wants to do with any conviction. But if I go down to the daily chart, well, what we talked about last week is that I expect to see is maybe drift towards that sort of daily 200. It starts to act like a bit of a magnet, okay, and I can expect price to maybe just drift towards that, and then just see what happens. And then I look at, well, how can I turn that into a trade idea? How can I turn that into a traded in? So I go down sort of the time frames here, okay, looking here, so to give us a bit of an idea of a trade opportunity. So, if I'm expecting that, here we go, let me just drag this down a little bit. So, what I'm expecting is, if price to sort of, move up towards around about that 12 sort of, we're looking at around about 12,660 level. Well, here we had a sort of a trade idea to have an opportunity for a trade entry here around about 12,603. That's, sort of get long there. Stop down at about 12,589, so that's that's about 14 ticks of trade risk, and then a target up here at about 12,660. So once again, I'm risking about 14 ticks for a possibility of about 57 ticks of profit. So that gives me a 4-to-1, about a 4-to-1 reward to risk ratio. Those of you just listening to me for the first time, what I say is I always like to have an asymmetric reward to risk ratio. If I'm going to risk £100, I want to be able to make 200, 300, 400, etc. That's the way I like to trade. It means that I don't have to be right on every trade. It means that when I am right, that the opportunity is for me to generate an asymmetric reward to risk ratio, and that's what I'm always looking for. Okay, so with that as a trade, as I say, about a 4-to-1 reward to risk ratio, well then I'm happy to take trades like that all day long, because that's actually that's a great opportunity there. So that's DAX. As I said, I think it'll drift up to about that 12,660 level, okay, and then it'll be a decision point of what it wants to do. Will it go through that daily 200, or will it bounce off it? And we'll wait and watch, and we'll build a trade plan around that accordingly. So I know that a few of us have been watching watching oil. So let's have a little quick look at oil there. Something a little bit different for us. Excuse me. So here we go. Here's the weekly oil chart. Okay, here's, we can see it's been on a good trend. Okay, good trend up. But once again, I start with, well, what was the weekly candle last week? Well, what are we looking at? What was the weekly candle? And I see last week weekly candle. That's it's an inside bar. It's you call it a doji, a spinning top. It's not terribly it's not a terribly strong or convincing candle. Okay, not a strong or convincing candle. Okay, it's you've heard me talk about it many times. Surge, then rest, surge, then rest. That's what markets do. And, it's clearly a little bit of a point of taking a rest. If I go down to the daily chart, well, we got above those highs around about 67. I see that as a bit of a 1, 2, 3 reversal pattern there, and we're just coiling up a little bit. So that starts to get me interested that, on a longer term basis, maybe we're ready to roll over a little bit. But when I go down to this 4-hourly chart, what I start to see here is, I'm just going to draw it in for you, is, I start to see is, it's kind of like a little bit of a block there, okay? A little bit of a block. We can see it was acting as resistance, then it's acted as support. I'm kind of back down into that sort of area again at the moment, and now, I'm kind of keen to see whether we'll get just a little bit of a reaction, maybe not a massive push up, but maybe just a little reaction off that level as the market soaks up the sort of the supply and demand areas that are clearly there. So then I look at, well, how do I turn that into a trade? How do I turn that into a trade idea? I go down to the 30-minute chart. I start looking at all these kind of these wicks here, okay, down where we've been before. And I think, well, maybe we'll get a small reaction, okay? Maybe we'll get a small reaction. And so what I look at, well, what I start interested, I look at that on a 5-minute chart, and I start to look at, well, all right, here we go. This could be an interesting opportunity. This could be a little bit of a chance to sort of have an inverse head and shoulders trade. Well, I'll be looking here around about sort of having a long trade around about sort of about 67.40. Have a stop beneath the lows there, so we're looking there around about sort of 67.20, and then I'm looking maybe we'll get up here to about back up towards this sort of block level here around about 67.75, 67.80. Okay, so I'm risking 20 ticks to make 40. It's about 2 to 1 on my trade, on my asymmetric reward to risk ratio. So that's me testing the market and seeing what we have there. Okay, so I hope that gives you a little bit of some things to look at. If Jens, we've got a minute or two left. If there's any particular questions, I'll try and answer them in the last moment or two. But I hope that gives our traders something to look at and work with today.
There was 1 or 2 questions, but you answered it in your description, so everything is fine. Tomorrow is another day, but tomorrow in many European countries is a holiday. So tomorrow we don't have a real-time daily trading address webinar. The next live one will be on Wednesday. Check all the trading hours out on admiralmarkets.com. There you will have a trading schedule calendar about the holidays. And for today, thanks to Paul for jumping in. Tomorrow, again, no real-time daily trading webinar because in so many European countries we have holidays. DAX is closed, CAC 40 is closed, Spanish IBEX is closed, and many more. Check all them out. I send you the link here live in the webinar. Thanks. Greetings from Berlin office, and the last words from Paul.
Super. Thanks very much. Lovely to hear from you all. I hope you enjoy the bank holiday and have a great trading week. Thanks very much, guys.